There comes a time in every heart when the weight becomes too heavy, the answers seem too far, and the silence feels too loud. It's in those quiet, lonely moments that a whisper rises from within, a whisper that says, "Give it to God." Not because you're weak, but because you've tried long enough to carry it all on your own. This message you're about to hear isn't just another reminder to pray or trust. It's a call to breathe again, to release what you've been gripping tightly, to find rest, not in the absence of problems, but in the presence of peace. Sometimes all we really need is to be reminded that we are not alone, that there is a greater power watching over every step, every tear, every silent prayer we've ever whispered. This video is not about religion, it's about release. It's about coming home to that sacred space inside you where worry ends and trust begins. You may have been strong for too long. You may be smiling on the outside, but breaking inside. You may be tired of pretending that you have it all figured out. So today, give yourself the permission to let go. As you watch till the end, let these words speak to the parts of your soul that no one else sees. Let them remind you that you don't need to understand the path to trust the one who guides it. Let them remind you that surrender is not giving up. It's handing over what was never yours to carry in the first place. Stay with me, heart open, soul still, because by the end of this message, you may just find the peace you've been searching for, not outside of you, but within. All you have to do is give it to God. There are moments in life when no matter how hard we try, things remain out of our control. We plan, we strive, we worry, and yet the outcome doesn't match our efforts. This is where the beauty of surrender comes in. Letting go of what you can't control isn't about giving up. It's about releasing the grip of anxiety and making space for peace. When we give it to God, we are choosing to stop wrestling with things we were never meant to fix on our own. We're saying, I've done my part, now I trust something greater to do the rest. There is deep power in this release. Our minds often run in circles, trying to find solutions, trying to predict every outcome. But no amount of overthinking can change what's already written. What it does change is our peace. When we constantly try to carry everything alone, we grow tired, not just in body, but in soul. Giving it to God is like setting down a heavy backpack you've been carrying for far too long. It doesn't mean you walk away from life, it means you walk lighter, with more trust and less fear. Peace doesn't come when everything is perfect. Peace comes when we choose to trust that everything will work out, even if we can't see how. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop fearing. It's the moment where you say, I can't see the road ahead, but I believe I'm being guided. This kind of surrender doesn't make you weaker, it makes you stronger. Because it takes real courage to stop trying to control the storm and instead trust that you'll be carried through it. When you give it to God, you take your hands off the steering wheel and place your trust in divine direction. You start to sleep better, think clearer, and live more fully. Because deep down, you know you're not alone. You know that there is a purpose unfolding, even when it's silent, even when it's slow. And the moment you stop trying to control what you can't, is the moment peace begins to rise within you. In this space of surrender, miracles have room to move. Calmness replaces chaos, fear dissolves into faith, and the world may stay the same around you, but something powerful changes within you. You begin to experience the kind of peace that doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from knowing you don't have to. There are times when life feels like a puzzle that just doesn't fit together. You try to make sense of things, but the more you try to understand, the more confused and frustrated you become. In those moments, trust begins where understanding ends. It's not about figuring everything out. It's about believing that there's a bigger picture being painted, even if you can't see it yet. Faith invites you to let go of needing all the answers and to rest in the knowledge that you are being guided, even through the unknown. We live in a world that teaches us to plan, prepare, and solve everything on our own, but some things are beyond human understanding. Loss, pain, delay, and uncertainty don't always come with clear reasons. And when your heart is tired of trying to understand why things are happening the way they are, that's the moment you're invited to shift from the head to the heart. That's where trust lives, not in logic, but in quiet surrender. It whispers, I don't know why, but I know I'm not alone. Giving your situation to God doesn't mean you stop caring or trying. It means you stop forcing, worrying, and doubting yourself at every turn. It means you begin to trust that even when you don't see a way is still being made. The timing, the outcomes, the delays, everything has a reason, and just because it's hidden now doesn't mean it's absent. Sometimes, God's silence is part of the plan. Sometimes the answer you need is found in your patience, not your understanding. When you trust without understanding, you're stepping into a deeper kind of strength. You're telling life, even if I don't see the finish line, I believe there is one. That kind of faith brings a stillness, a calm assurance that you're being held, carried, and protected. It allows you to breathe in the middle of the unknown. It allows you to live with hope even when nothing around you makes sense. And over time, that trust becomes a quiet power. You stop fighting the wind and start letting it guide you. You stop needing control and start embracing peace. You may not understand everything that's happening, but you understand this. You're being led, and you're exactly where you're meant to be right now. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, fix more, and be more, surrender is often misunderstood. Many see it as weakness, as if letting go means giving up, but surrendering, especially to something greater than yourself, is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of wisdom. It's knowing that you are not meant to carry everything alone. It's realizing that strength doesn't always look like pushing harder. Sometimes it looks like opening your hands and saying, I trust you with this. That moment of surrender is not when you lose, it's when peace begins to rise. We often think that we must be in control for life to go right. We plan, we analyze, we overthink, thinking that if we can just manage it all, things will fall into place. But life has a way of reminding us that we are not in control of everything. And when those moments come, the ones that leave us exhausted and anxious, surrender becomes the doorway to clarity. Surrender is where strength and humility, it's where you stop fighting battles that aren't yours to fight and start trusting that you're being supported even when you can't see how. Choosing to surrender doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you take action where you can and release what you can't. It means you give your best and then trust that what happens next is part of a bigger plan. There is wisdom in knowing the difference between what you can change and what you must hand over. When you give your struggle, your fear, or your confusion to God, you're making space for peace to settle in your soul. You're admitting that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. And in that sacred space of surrender, you begin to feel lighter. The pressure eases, the burden lifts. You no longer feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders. Instead, you feel a quiet strength, a sense that you're not alone, that you're being carried. That kind of surrender is powerful. It doesn't take anything from you. It gives you something deeper. It gives you rest. It gives you peace. And most of all, it gives you freedom. Because the truth is, the more you try to control everything, the more tired you become. But the more you surrender, the more peace you gain. Surrendering to God isn't about weakness. It's about choosing wisdom over worry. It's about living with open hands and a peaceful heart, knowing that even when life is uncertain, you are being held by something far greater than yourself. Pain has a way of sinking deep into the soul, quietly building walls around the heart. Whether it's from betrayal, disappointment, loss, or failure, the wounds we carry often remain hidden behind forced smiles and busy lives. We learn to cope, to survive, but not always to heal. Healing begins when you stop holding it all inside and start handing it over to something greater. When you give your hurt to God, you're no longer managing pain alone. You're saying, I can't carry this anymore, please take it from me. And in that moment, healing begins. Not always instantly, but certainly deeply. There is a quiet strength in choosing to let go of the pain that's been holding you back. Sometimes we believe that holding on keeps us in control, or that if we forget the hurt, we're allowing it to win. But holding on to pain only gives it more power. When you give it to God, you're not forgetting what happened. You're choosing to stop reliving it. You're choosing to let light enter the places that have been covered in darkness for far too long. That's not weakness, that's courage. That's faith in the power of emotional and spiritual renewal. We often try to fix ourselves on our own. We bury our pain under distractions, busyness, or silence. But true healing requires honesty. It requires saying, I'm not okay, and I need help beyond what this world can offer. God is not distant from your pain. He is closest in those broken places, waiting for you to release what's been hurting you so deeply. And the moment you hand over the hurt, you create space for peace, love, and hope to grow where pain once lived. There is a different kind of freedom that comes when you no longer have to pretend you're fine. When you can finally exhale, finally cry, finally say, this is too heavy for me. That is the beginning of transformation. Giving your hurt to God doesn't erase the past, but it rewrites the future. It turns wounds into wisdom. Scars become symbols of strength, not shame. And you begin to feel whole again, even if the pieces aren't exactly the way they were before. Healing doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it comes in quiet waves, through prayer, through tears, through stillness. But every time you surrender your pain, you're moving closer to peace. You're reclaiming joy. You're remembering that your story isn't over and that there is still beauty waiting to rise from your broken places. When you give your hurt to God, you're choosing restoration over resentment and life over lingering pain. There's something powerful that happens when you finally stop trying to force every outcome. When you step back, breathe deeply, and say, I've done all I can. Now I give it to God. You open the door for something greater than your own effort. You make space for miracles. You make space for things to align beyond what you could plan or imagine. It's in that surrender that life begins to move in unexpected, beautiful ways, not because you gave up, but because you made room for something divine to step in and do what only it can do. We often think we need to control every detail, what happens, when it happens, and how. We hold on tightly, trying to manage every piece of our lives like a puzzle. But what if the breakthrough you've been waiting for is just on the other side of letting go? What if the answer comes not by trying harder, but by trusting deeper? Sometimes the reason we can't see progress is because we're standing in the way. When we let go and step aside, we're not giving up control, we're giving space for God to work. There is a deep peace that settles in your heart when you stop striving and start trusting. Things that once brought stress now bring surrender. You begin to understand that your part is to show up, stay faithful, and believe the rest isn't in your hands. That's not a loss, it's a gift. Because when it's not all on you, you stop carrying the weight alone. And when the pressure to fix everything lifts, your heart becomes open to receive what you didn't need. This is where the miraculous begins. In the stillness, in the trust, in the letting go. The opportunity you were chasing may come from a place you didn't expect. The healing you longed for may unfold in a way you couldn't have planned. This doesn't mean life will be perfect, but it means you'll be ready to see beauty where you once saw chaos. When you stop standing in the way, you're no longer limiting what's possible. You're allowing blessings to flow freely in their own timing and in their own form. So take a step back. Take your hands off the wheel. Say the words in your heart that you've been afraid to say, I trust you with this. Then watch what happens. Watch the doors that open. Watch the peace that grows. Watch the path that clears. Because the moment you stop trying to do everything on your own is the moment life starts to unfold with more grace than you ever imagined. When you give it all to God, your worries, your dreams, your pain, your confusion, something sacred begins to shift inside you. Suddenly, you're not chasing peace, you're living in it. You're no longer waking up with heaviness in your chest or anxiety in your thoughts. There's a calmness that wraps around you even when life is uncertain. That peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from knowing that you've placed everything into the hands of the one who does. It's not just a feeling, it's a quiet, steady strength that lives in your soul. So many people spend their days searching for peace in things that don't last. They chase success, approval, or control, thinking that once they get there, they'll finally be okay. But real peace doesn't come from reaching a goal. It comes from surrendering what's beyond your control. When you stop fighting battles that aren't yours, when you lay down the need to understand everything, you create space in your heart for peace to live. And that kind of peace is powerful. It stays with you even in storms. Peace from God isn't loud or dramatic. It doesn't need applause or attention. It shows up quietly in the middle of your doubts, in the pause between your tears, in the silence after your prayers. It reminds you that even if everything around you feels uncertain, something inside you is steady. It's the voice that says, you're not alone. It's the presence that comforts you when there's no one else around. It's the calm that carries you forward, one breath at a time. And the more you give to God, the deeper that peace becomes. It becomes a part of how you speak, how you think, and how you live. You stop reacting in fear and start responding with faith. You stop overthinking and start trusting. It doesn't mean you won't face challenges, but it means those challenges won't steal your peace. Because your peace isn't built on what happens outside of you, it's built on what you've placed your trust in. This kind of peace can't be explained to someone who hasn't experienced it. It has to be felt, it has to be lived. It comes when you let go of needing to control everything and finally say, I give this to you, all of it. And in that moment, something shifts. Not just around you, but within you. And once that peace enters your life, you'll never want to live without it again. In the end, giving it to God is not about losing control, it's about finding peace. It's about knowing that you were never meant to carry the weight of the world on your own shoulders. Life will always bring challenges, moments of fear, and seasons of uncertainty. But when you choose to release your pain, your worries, your doubts, and your dreams into the hands of something greater, you create space for healing, for growth, and for unexpected blessings. You were never alone, not for one moment. Even in your silent struggles, even when you felt unseen, there was a quiet presence walking with you. And now, as you begin to trust that presence more deeply, your life will begin to shift. Not always on the outside, but always within. You will feel lighter, you will feel stronger, you will feel whole, not because everything is perfect, but because your heart is finally at peace. Remember, surrender is not a one-time act, it's a daily choice. Each day you get to decide whether you will carry the burden or place it in the hands of the one who sees the bigger picture. And each time you choose to give it to God, you grow closer to the peace, clarity, and purpose you've been longing for. Thank you for opening your heart and spending this time with me. I pray that something in these words met you exactly where you needed it. If it touched your soul, hold on to that feeling, carry it with you. And when the weight tries to return, don't forget, you don't have to hold it. Just give it to God. Thank you, and may peace be with you always.